What's up, my dude? So I got us another suspension roulette video here. That's the only thing I know to call this series because, like, what the hell are you going to name this thing, man? I've pretty much done everything at this point. So I've done, like, stock suspension. I've done no brakes. I've done only sitting down. I've done pretty much every single combination, and that's why I don't even have a playlist of this series, because I don't even know what to call it. Like, do you call it different suspension setups, different, I don't know. Some dude just called it suspension roulette in a comment one time. He was like, oh, you know, you should do this like on a live stream, like do suspension roulette. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just kind of, you know, took that name from it. But yes, I have maximum top speed gearing on this bike right now. So it is, I can't think of the exact numbers right this second, but if I'm not mistaken, it should be the top gearing, whichever one that is. It should be like all the way maxed out, and then the one under it is like all the way back the other way. So I think I'm thinking of that right. It's a little bit confusing, but you just kind of got to know what you're looking at. It's opposite of what you think it would be with your actual gearing. Like you basically like go opposite. So like it'll be like the top one will be full, and then the bottom one will be like the other way. And then that means maximum speed gearing, and then you take the top one down to nothing, and then the bottom one all the way, and that's max acceleration gearing. So it's a little weird and confusing at first, but once you learn it, it's not bad at all. So I don't know if I've ever actually rode with this on a Supercross track before. I don't know if I can just mob around this whole thing in first gear or not. I don't know if I can actually do that. It's looking like I can. I just kind of got to figure it out a little bit here. But yeah, dude, gearing's actually, when you get like pretty hardcore at this game, I would say it's one of the most important things. You know, I changed my gearing about 2 years ago, or actually probably more like a year-ish. Like before last Supercross season started, I changed my gearing from something that I'd been running from day one. I changed it from that, and I'm telling you, it made my Supercross lap times at least a full second quicker on any Supercross track out there. And I changed it very minutely, my dude. Like very minutely. One click is what I changed it. One clicker, you know, one notch is what I changed that shit. So it's all, everybody's a little bit different with how they get on the throttle, you know, how aggressive they are with the throttle and all that. So I think everybody's just a little bit different with what kind of gearing they're going to like. It just kind of all depends on how you play the game, what controller you use, you know, how you shift. I mean, it all plays a little bit of a part in what you need. You know, you can't just be like, oh, well, this is the best gearing, because it may not be the best gearing for you. Someone else may be able to completely rock around the track with it, and then you can't even get around the track with that same exact gearing. So it just, that's how the whole game is, though. Like, every aspect of it is that way. You know, just because somebody else, they can be real fast with it, doesn't mean you can be real fast with it. And even line choice plays a big part. Why the fuck am I casing everything? Even line choice is a super big part. Like, I've noticed that with me pro racing, like, some people will just take certain lines on the track, and they may be getting the fastest lap time or a pretty fast lap time, but then I start to realize, like, I just can't take those lines. Like, those lines just don't flow good for me. Like, they just don't work good in conjunction with my setup, or, you know, like the cornering is a little too tight for my certain riding style, or whatever the case may be, and I can run the same kind of lap time running a completely different line than them. You know, just you got to find your own sort of line that fits your own riding style. And once you do that, that's how you kind of piece it all together. Now, obviously, on some tracks, you're kind of, it's a little bit more one-lined. This right here, dude, it's kind of like first gear is pretty good for most of the track, but in certain areas, like that right there, you know, it's just not quite enough to pop that triple over. Now this game, I would say, is very shift heavy. Like, it all depends on how you shift that bike. You know, how you're going to be able to huck something out of a corner, how you're going to be able to basically do anything. And you learn how to shift, like, really, really quick. And I don't even play this game with any sound. I don't even hear the bike at all. And I've never really played it like that. I do on a 125 just because whenever I do, like, my wide open videos, I don't really ride the 125 very often, so I just hop on there and play with the sound just to make sure I've got the bitch actually wide open and not just thinking I have it wide open, you know. That can definitely happen a lot, you know, if you're not listening to it. You think you're wide open, but you're actually not really wide open all the way through the corner. So, yeah, this maximum top speed gearing, it's one of the things it's all about the difference between like flowing or being like a Justin Barcia aggressive style rider. You know, like, do you come around a corner and just bang that thing sideways and, you know, go roost it, blast the corner all the way around? Or do you like have this like smooth flow to your riding style? You know, this kind of gearing right here is way more for like a Dungey style rider. Definitely not exactly what I would call my style. I guess I'm a little bit more in between the like aggressive and trying to be smooth. There's definitely been times I've been too aggressive and times I've been too smooth, you know. But I wouldn't say I'm like extreme on either end. I try to be more like a Villapoto, where it's a little bit more in the middle. And I just think it's better to have a little bit more of a mid-style balance to it. But, yeah, you should definitely never have to get out of second gear on this, on, like, any Supercross track, I wouldn't think, with this maximum top speed. Oh, yeah, you can huck that in first gear. It's just a little bit more difficult. If you shift it to second too quick, then you're going to case basically everything. So, like, if you do shift to second, the only times I would say to do that is on, like, the very end of a straightaway or maybe a whoop section, or it makes it a little bit difficult on some of these bigger rhythms because you can't, it's like the gear's not really made for that exact kind of rhythm, but you can hit this in first gear. Definitely not bad at all. I see a ton of people out there, pro riders and stuff, that don't really shift all that much. I mean, they'll stay like in first gear over the whoops. They'll do all these crazy things that I don't know how they do it. Like, I guess they just have some totally different kind of gearing than I have. I just don't like that. I think you have more control over it when you shift. You know, you have to shift a lot. If you look at like Fresquez or Hunter Root, them dudes are shifting like all the fucking time, like first through fifth gear the whole time they're on the track, you know? And I feel like you have a whole lot more control over it, but that's just my own personal. I mean, I've had people that never get out of first gear, really, and they smoke me on a Supercross track. So I can't really say, you know, this is better than that, but just for me personally, I feel like I have more control whenever I make it to where I kind of am forced to shift in a lot of areas, because it makes it to where you can get the right kind of RPMs basically regardless of what speed you're going, versus like this super long gears, tall gears, where you kind of just got to deal with what you have RPM wise, versus like basically if with my normal gearing, like if I wanted it to be a little bit more smooth, I could just shift up and it would still do that for me. Or I could be in a lower gear and get the RPMs that I was wanting to get, versus like just having one gear that was like doing both of those things, like kind of like how this is right here. It's just a little different. Like this top speed gearing, I know you kind of have to have it on some tracks out there if they have a massive style jump, like a 300-foot. I know my Canyon MX, I think it was, it had a straight up Grand Canyon jump where you actually jumped all the way over the canyon. I'm sure that jump was at least 300 feet, maybe even more than that. 420 feet, dog. I don't really know, but if any of you guys remember that track, like you basically had to change your gearing just to ride on that track, which I don't think you had to have maximum top speed. I just think it had to be like at least stock, or a little bit more towards the like top speed style gearing. And a lot of people do that. They don't really even worry about their gearing too much, which really surprises me. A lot of beginner riders, they will just you'll see them, they'll be lugging the bike around everywhere on the track. It's like, damn, dog, like, you need to pick up your RPMs a little bit. That's the problem. That's why you can't hit anything, you know? You ain't even got the RPMs to do it. But I guess a lot of them try to ride like that or have that kind of gearing so that they don't spin out in the corner. But that's where the throttle control comes into play. You know, and you're leaning and stuff like that. That's how you can control that thing when you got it maxed out RPMs. So this right here is a little bit weird for me because I come into a corner and try to gas it out of it and expect the bike to spin a certain amount, but it's not doing it because it's such a tall gear. You know, you get so used to how the bike spins in the corner, and it's just crazy how much of that goes on that you don't realize after you play the game for a certain amount of time with a certain kind of gearing and certain setup and stuff like that. You just don't even realize how that bike spins and moves, and you just get so used to that you just don't even, I mean, it's like you're not even doing it, but yet you're spinning that thing, blasting corners, and that's awesome, dude. I love that about this game, and also real life riding as well, how you just get better, dude. Every lap you do, every day you spend on it. That's the way with anything out there, man. It's such an interesting thing how the brain like just naturally learns stuff. You just get better at it. You just got to stay on that daily grind, dude. Like, that's such an awesome thing. Like, and anything's gonna be more difficult the first time you're trying to like get back into it, or when you're first trying to do it. It's obviously going to be more difficult then than if you've been doing it every single day for a month. It just becomes like clockwork. It just becomes easy. You know, everything just becomes easier. That grind becomes easy. But you have to put in the hard work at the beginning or you'll never get there. So anyways, man, that's maximum speed gearing on a Supercross track. You basically can't really get in second gear. That's pretty much how it is. Like, it's just weird. It would take me a little while to learn it. I could ride with this. Like, I could ride with this kind of gearing on any track out there. I could pro race with this, but it would just take me some time to learn it. That's kind of the way with any sort of setup or gearing or anything like that in this game. It's not like you can't ride with it. It's just take you a little bit of time to learn how that bike, you know, the physics of it move in the corner with that particular actual gearing and throttle control movement that you have going with it as well. But either way, I appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.